You know, it is this really fascinating paradox of modern life. You are probably listening to this on a device right now that possesses, I mean, way more computing power than the massive room-sized machines that put humanity on the moon.
Oh, absolutely.
Right, like you have a literal supercomputer just sitting right there in your pocket. We live in an era with unprecedented access to wealth, advanced medical care, and just infinite streams of information.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
But despite having the sum total of human dietary knowledge accessible in literally seconds, our basic nutritional health, like the actual biological foundation of our physical well-being, is measurably declining.
It really highlights a critical gap in how human beings actually operate. Because we assume, that access to information automatically leads to better choices.
Which it doesn't.
Exactly. The climbing rates of global metabolic diseases tell a completely different story. I mean, having an encyclopedia of nutrition in your pocket doesn't mean anything if the knowledge never actually internalizes to the point where it changes your daily behavior.
And that gap, the gap between knowing and doing, is exactly what we are focusing on today. Today's deep dive centers on this incredibly compelling 2025 pilot study published in the journal Digital.
Yeah, it's a great paper.
It's titled A Pilot Study on AI-Powered Gamified Chatbot with OMO Strategy for Enhancing Parental Nutrition Knowledge. And our mission here is to explore how researchers are attempting to solve this modern health crisis.
And they are taking a very unconventional route.
Right. They aren't doing it with traditional textbooks, and
Right.
they aren't passing out boring pamphlets at a doctor's office. They are literally blending physical reality with artificial intelligence, chat apps, and video game mechanics.
Which is wild when you think about it.
It is. Okay, let's unpack this, because to understand the brilliance of the solution, we first have to look at a very specific cultural context that perfectly illustrates our modern paradox.
So to find that context, this study takes us to Taiwan. And the data coming out of Taiwan over the last few decades provides a near-perfect laboratory for exploring this exact problem.
Okay, set the scene for us.
Well, you are looking at a society where an astonishing 95% of the population accesses the internet, primarily via their mobile phones. It is a culture that is incredibly connected and technologically integrated into every single facet of daily life.
Right.
Furthermore, they benefit from a highly robust, accessible national healthcare and social welfare system.
So just looking at it on paper, they have all the advantages. Universal access to tech, universal access to doctors. I mean, they should be thriving nutritionally.
You would definitely expect a baseline of excellent health, yeah.
Yeah.
But scholars analyzed these large-scale national nutrition health status change surveys, and they looked at data spanning nearly 3 decades, specifically from 1993 all the way to 2020.
Wow, 30 years of data.
Yeah, and they observed a consistent year-over-year deviation from national dietary guidelines. As the nation grew wealthier and more connected, they tracked rising rates of obesity, which serves as a primary driver for metabolic syndrome symptoms.
Oh, wow.
We're talking about major spikes in hypertension, hyperlipidemia, and diabetes.
Wait, just to clarify for anyone not familiar, when we say hyperlipidemia, we're basically talking about high cholesterol and excess fat circulating in the blood, correct?
That is the clinical definition, yes.
Yeah.
It's this silent condition that significantly increases the risk of heart disease, and it is directly tied to poor dietary composition over long periods of time.
Over 3 decades.
Yeah.
So this isn't just a recent, post-pandemic blip or a sudden fad diet gone wrong.
No, not at all.
This is a sustained generational slide into poorer health, occurring right alongside the explosion of the internet and mobile technology.
It is absolutely a systemic issue. When researchers dug into the root cause of this malnutrition, they didn't just find a lack of access to healthy food. They traced it back to a severe, fundamental lack of nutritional knowledge.
Right.
But more importantly, they identified the mechanism of how that lack of knowledge propagates through a society. Dietary habits, food preferences, and basic nutritional concepts are essentially locked in during early childhood.
And who is controlling that?
Exactly. The primary architects of those lifelong childhood habits are the parents.
It's like trying to run a brand new software update on a completely corrupted hard drive.
That is a great way to put it.
Right. If the parents' baseline operating system for food is broken, if they don't know what a healthy plate actually looks like or how to balance macronutrients, the kids just inherit those bugs from day one. The blueprint is flawed before the child even starts making their own choices.
Precisely.
But here is where I have to push back a little bit. If the problem is just a lack of knowledge, aren't there already a million diet apps out there?
Oh, thousands, right.
You can go to the App Store right now and download 1,000 different calorie trackers or recipe guides. Why are researchers targeting parents with yet another piece of technology?
This raises an important question, and it strikes at the very heart of why traditional digital health interventions fail so frequently. You have to analyze the specific demographic of the people whose behavior you are attempting to change. In this pilot study, they recruited 20 unique participants. 90% of them were women, 60% were stay-at-home moms, and the majority fell between the ages of 31 and 50.
Think about your own phone right now. Think about how many unread notifications you have, or how many health apps you downloaded on New Year's Day and swore you'd use, only to bury them in a folder a week later.
We all do it.
Now multiply that fatigue by the sheer exhaustion of managing a household and raising small children.
That is the exact friction point. A busy parent simply does not have the cognitive bandwidth to sit down and study a static nutrition app. Traditional applications demand an enormous amount of self-directed motivation.
You really have to want it.
Yeah, you have to remember to open the app, you have to read the articles, parse the dense medical information, and then somehow figure out how to apply it to your family's specific meals.
All while a toddler is screaming in the background.
Exactly. It feels like unpaid homework.
And absolutely nobody wants more homework when they're already dealing with a temper tantrum over a piece of broccoli.
So the researchers recognize that they couldn't just throw another isolated app into the digital void and expect these mothers to find it. They needed a radically different structural approach.
They had to sneak it in.
Basically, they had to integrate the learning into the parents' actual physical routines. That realization led them to deploy the FOMO strategy.
FOMO. Online merge offline. I love this concept because it fundamentally changes how we think about the boundary between our screens and the real world.
To really grasp the power of FOMO, it helps to distinguish it from the older model that most of us are used to, which is O2O, or online to offline.
Right, the traditional marketing funnel.
Exactly. O2O operates on a very binary linear track. Think of a digital coupon or a targeted ad you see on social media. The online space is merely acting as a billboard designed to drive you to a physical offline store to make a physical purchase.
Okay, yeah.
Once you walk into that store and buy the item, the digital interaction is essentially terminated.
It's a one-way street. Online points you to offline, and then the relationship just stops.
OMO online merge offline functions entirely differently. It is a seamless, continuous loop. It blurs the lines between virtual and physical environments so completely that they become one cohesive experience.
Like they're feeding each other.
Yes. The physical experience actively feeds data into the digital experience, and the digital experience simultaneously enhances the physical one in real time.
I want to look at how they actually built this loop in the real world because the setup of this study is incredibly clever. They didn't just email these parents a link to download a program.
No, that would have failed.
Right. They grounded the entire intervention in a physical community space. Over the course of 8 weeks, they ran this program at a public childcare center in Taiwan.
The physical anchor of this FOMO loop was a series of in-person, one-hour seminars led by registered dietitians. And the researchers clearly understood their target audience here.
Because of the names of the seminars,
Yeah.
right?
The lecture units were not given dry academic titles. They totally avoided names like the efficacy of insoluble dietary fiber in early childhood.
Which sounds awful.
It does. Instead, they utilized highly approachable, catchy sessions titled things like Sweet and Sour Yogurt, Vegetable Ready Go, and Little Chefs.
It sounds fun, like a community cooking class rather than a medical lecture. But obviously, just attending a one-hour seminar isn't enough to permanently rewire your brain's nutritional database.
Definitely not.
I mean, people forget 80% of what they hear the moment they walk out the door and get back in their cars. So this is where the digital bridge comes into play.
The researchers made a brilliant tactical decision here. Instead of building a proprietary app from scratch, they utilized a platform that parents were already addicted to.
The messaging app.
Right. For context, Line is an overwhelmingly ubiquitous messaging app in Taiwan. It serves the same function as WhatsApp or iMessage in other parts of the world.
It's just what everyone uses to text.
Exactly. By embedding their intervention directly into Line, they completely eliminated the friction of forcing users to download, register for, and learn a completely unfamiliar interface.
They met the parents where their thumbs were already spending 3 hours a day.
Exactly. So the FOMO loop functioned like this. When parents arrived at the physical child care center for the seminar, they scanned a QR code to join a specific AI chatbot integrated within their Line app.
Okay.
Before the dietitian even began speaking, The parents took a quick pretest on their phones through the chat. This primed their cognitive awareness for the upcoming material.
Getting them ready to learn.
Yeah. Then they sat and experienced the physical lecture. Finally, after the class concluded, the chatbot pushed personalized post tests, short course review videos, and interactive Q&A directly into their daily messaging feeds.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The app did not isolate the parents in some separate digital silo. By pushing the post test and the review materials right into their main communication app nestled right between text messages from their spouse and photos from their friends, it connected their physical, in-person learning directly to their personal digital space.
That's the brilliance of it.
It created what the researchers call stickiness. You aren't leaving the seminar behind in that classroom. The seminar actively follows you home.
That stickiness is the defining feature of a successful FOMO strategy. The knowledge intervention does not terminate when the physical session concludes. The chatbot transforms into a persistent, personalized resource.
Right.
However, establishing the bridge is only step one. How do you motivate an exhausted parent to actually walk across it?
Right, because even if the app is already open on my phone, taking a multiple choice quiz about dietary fiber on a Tuesday evening sounds like the fastest possible way to put me to sleep.
To solve the motivation problem, the researchers introduced powerful psychological hooks, gamification, and artificial intelligence. Let's look at the gamification first.
Okay, let's break that down.
Gamification involves extracting the behavioral mechanics that make video games so addictive and applying them to non-game contexts. In this study, they didn't just give the parents a simple grade out of 10. Every single time a parent engaged with the chatbot, whether they completed a pre-test, finished a post-test, or interacted with the review material, they earned experience points.
Wait, hold on. I have to challenge this premise. We're talking about exhausted 40-year-old mothers managing entire households.
I know, it sounds weird.
Right. You're telling me they actually care about earning XP and leveling up like a teenager playing Call of Duty in their basement?
Yeah.
That just feels entirely disconnected from the reality of their daily lives.
It sounds counterintuitive, but the underlying psychology is universal. The desire for progression and reward doesn't disappear when you turn 40. What gamification does is create a predictable dopamine loop of variable rewards.
Okay, I can see that.
But the researchers didn't just use abstract numbers. They tied those experience points to a highly specific visual element. The users didn't just have a static profile picture.